Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the next part. So, we have completed the first part of the chapter and we have discussed the basic concepts in that chapter, and we have stopped at the discussion of electric dipole. Now, we will discuss the rest of the idea, and please follow my lecture. The very next idea we have to discuss is all about torque acting on a dipole. Suppose you are having a dipole, you are placing that dipole in a uniform electric field, torque on a dipole. Very simple lecture. Please follow this very simple manner. Try to note down whatever I am simply writing on the board. Okay, suppose we are having a uniform electric field, and we already know the significance of uniform electric field. In a uniform electric field, the field lines are parallel. So when I keep a dipole with a certain angle with respect to the uniform field, like this, maybe the length of the dipole is making an angle theta. So intensity of electric field is E, as well as the dipole moment vector, it is making an angle theta with respect to the applied field. So we can simply say that in the situation, net force on the dipole is 0, because there is a attractive force in this direction. Since this is a positive region, this negative charge get attracted, and that force is given by F is equal to QE. Okay, at the same time we know that the field lines will end up in a negative part, so this region is negative, and we can say that there will be an attractive force along this direction that is given by F is equal to QE. So when you look at the figure, you can see that there are two forces acting equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Since their direction is opposite, they will get cancel each other, then the net force on the dipole is 0. Since the force is 0, there is no translation. There is no translation. Translation means you know that it's a linear motion or a curvilinear motion, whatever it is, there is no translation. There is a chance of rotation, because you can see there is a couple acting on the dipole. Suppose this is our dipole, a force is simply forcing the upper end like this, lower end in just opposite. There is a couple, it is acting like this. Look at here, like this. Since there is a couple, we can write down there is a torque. Then the torque is represented by a letter called tau. It is equal to PE sine theta, where P is the magnetic moment, E is the electric field intensity. So we can write down vectorially, torque is nothing but P cross E. What does it say? P cross E, right? The cross product of dipole moment vector with the electric field intensity will give you the net torque acting on it. At the same time, the maximum torque is given by PE only. It is the maximum torque, tau max. It happens if theta is the angle, that should be 90 degree apart. If the dipole is making an angle 90 degree with respect to electric field, then there is a maximum torque. That maximum torque is nothing but the direct product of P and E, where P is the electric dipole moment, E is the intensity of electric field. Now we have to discuss oscillation of the dipole. Oscillation of the dipole in a uniform field. Suppose you are having a uniform field of intensity E, and you are keeping a dipole whose dipole moment is given by P, and they are making an angle theta. Okay. Of course, I told you there is a torque. That torque is given by this equation, tau equal to PE sine theta. And the time period is given by T is equal to 2 pi root over I by PE. This is the relation which connecting time period of oscillation. Time period. What about frequency? The frequency is nothing but the reciprocal of time period. We can write down 1 by T. What is the reciprocal? It is nothing but 1 by 2 pi root over PE by I. PE by I. This is the frequency and this is the time period. Okay guys, so these two informations are very very important. Please note down and we will continue once you write all this. Okay guys, so the next idea we have to discuss is the distribution of charges, and we will say it as continuous distribution of charges. Continuous distribution. So in every problem we consider, electric charges seems to be very very pointed. That is, if you select a system where you can mark Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, etc. Where Q1 is a point charge, Q2 is a point charge, you can separate each point charges. But in practical situation, if you take a charged rod or charged sphere or whatever it is, you cannot simply take a very single element from there, or you cannot ever choose a point charge. So the concept of point charge will disappear when you come to practical situation. In that situation, we have used continuous distribution. And you know that what is continuous distribution? There are three distributions. The very first one is linear charge distribution. Okay, here we need a term called linear charge density. Linear charge density, we can call it as lambda. Lambda is nothing but rate of change of charge with respect to length of the conductor. Or simply you can write down lambda is nothing but total charge by length of the conductor. If you select a conductor like this, whose length, it's a linear rod, whose length is L, and it carries a total charge of Q, then lambda is nothing but charge per, this is lambda here, we can write down charge per unit length. Charge present in a unit length is called lambda. SI unit, you know that it is coulomb per meter. SI unit coulomb per meter. So you can write down the total charge of the system. Elemental charge. Elemental charge. The elemental charge dq is nothing but lambda times of dl. Then total charge. Total charge can be written as q. It is nothing but integral of dq. We know what is dq. dq is lambda dl. So you can write down the total charge or the net charge can be written as lambda into dl. Integral of lambda dl. This is how you use this idea. And when you come to the very next one, that is called a surface charge distribution. And you know what is surface charge distribution? Suppose you select a surface. In the surface, many more charges seems to be presented. Now, we call it as sigma, surface charge density. Surface charge density. Surface charge density. This is another function we use. We can take it as sigma. It is nothing but a rate of change of charge in a surface with respect to area. Okay, or we can, surface area can be written as ds. If you take a very small elemental area, this is the value. So you can also write down total charge divided by area of the surface. You can write down also. So SI unit is nothing but coulomb per meter square is the SI unit of this quantity. And the total charge in a system, elemental charge can be represented as elemental charge. That is, charge present in a small region can be represented as, look at here, it is dq. dq is equal to, if you multiply this ds over here, you can write down sigma times of ds, right? Then net charge or the total charge can be written as q net. It is the integral of dq. If you integrate this function, you can find integral of sigma into ds. And this is how you represent charge in a area. Okay, now there are one more idea we have to discuss, which is called a volume charge density, and we will discuss that also. So we will discuss volume charge density. As we already discussed, it is nothing but volume charge distribution. Okay, sorry, it's a volume charge distribution. This volume charge distribution is, from here we will have volume charge density. Volume charge density means charge per unit volume. It is represented by a letter rho. Rho is equal to dq by dv. Derivative of charge with respect to volume is called volume charge density. We can represent this like a total charge present in the system divided by volume. Suppose you are having a cube or something, and if you select a very unit value from here whose volume is dv, then it can have a charge dq. Okay, so it is called a charge per unit volume. Its SI unit is coulomb per meter cube. So once the quantity is given in this unit, you please try to understand the given quantity is nothing but volume charge density. Okay, now the total charge in the system, you know, the elemental charge means charge present in a unit volume, that is dq, it is equal to rho dv. From this relation you can find this. Then what is net charge? Net charge or total charge can be written as integral of dq. That is, net charge can be represented as integral of rho dv, and we need this relation for solving certain problems. Please guys, try to remember all this idea and note down these three distributions. Okay, please note it. Okay guys, so we need a very last topic from this chapter, that is called Gauss's law. And you know what is Gauss's law, and I will give you the idea again. Please try to note down things that I am writing on the board. Okay guys, so we have to discuss what is Gauss's law. According to Gauss, suppose you are having a charge q. This charge is enclosed by a surface. It's a closed surface, and we can call this surface as Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface is a closed surface. Inside that surface you kept a charge. Then we know that field lines will simply go outwards if it is a positive charge, or simply enter if it is a negative charge. Okay, then Gauss's law states that total electric flux passing through a closed surface, that is, we can write down phi. It is the total flux. We can represent that as closed integral over this surface E dot ds. It is equal to q by epsilon 0. Look at here, the total flux going outwards through a closed surface depends only on the charge present in the surface, not the geometry of the surface. If the surface area increased or decreased, it doesn't depend. The number of field lines passing outwards or inwards depends only on the magnitude of charge present in it. If the Gaussian surface encloses a charge of maximum value, then the field lines associated with that charge is maximum, then the flux increases. If the charge enclosed in the surface is very less, then the number of field lines encountered with the surface is also less. So it states that the total electric flux, which can mathematically represented like this, it is equal to q by epsilon 0, where q is the charge enclosed by that surface. Epsilon 0, we know that it is permittivity of free space. This is how we have to identify this law. This is very important concept. So guys, now what happened if you take a dipole? You know, I'm taking a dipole. We are having a dipole. This dipole is kept in a Gaussian surface. It's a closed surface. Then the number of field lines going out, can comes to here like this. It can comes to here. So there is no net field lines is leaving. Every field lines that leaves will comes to the other side, which means the net flux is 0. Here what is the net charge enclosed? The net charge is nothing but plus q plus minus q. In the Gaussian surface, the total charge is 0. Therefore, flux can be written as closed integral over the surface E dot ds. It is equal to net charge divided by epsilon 0. Look at here, net charge is 0, then it is 0. So guys, according to Gauss's law, we can say that the net flux associated with a electric dipole which is enclosed by a surface is always 0. Again I repeat, the net electric flux associated with a dipole which is enclosed by a closed surface is always 0. So that is what we have to, for dipoles this value is 0. For a unit charge or for any isolated charge, it is q by epsilon naught. So Gauss's law will give you how much the flux and how that flux is linked with the charge. Okay, please note it down. That is very important again. Okay guys, now we will discuss the value of electric field caused by various elements. Okay, so look at here. Electric field due to a charged conductor. Suppose you are having finite length conductor, a conductor whose length is already defined and whose length is given by L. Suppose there is a point over here and this conductor is having a certain charge stored in it. So what we can do is we can draw a straight line to the conductor, that is give you a distance r, and you need to find electric field at this point. How can you do that? First of all, you have to draw this line, and I simply made this is alpha, this angle is beta. The two ends are forming angles alpha and beta with respect to this point. So we need to find the total field produced by here. That equation is nothing but it is equal to 2 lambda divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 r into sine of alpha plus beta whole divided by 2. And this is what we can apply on here. Sorry, sine of alpha plus beta divided by 2. This is the relation we can use for this case. No problem. Now for infinite length. Suppose you are having a conductor which is infinite in size, whose sizes cannot be defined. It is very much longer, and I just made a section over here. This section is having only distance r. For infinite, you look at here, this will be 90, this will be 90. Alpha is 90, beta is 90. So if I substitute that over here, this equation will become, it is nothing but, look at here, it is nothing but lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon 0 r. This is for infinite length. Electric field due to a charged conductor of infinite length. For finite length, these are very, very important. Please note down. Now we need another idea, that is from the charged sphere, charged, like it said. Okay, so now we will collect electric field due to a plain sheet of charge, plain sheet of charge. Suppose you're having a plane. Okay, suppose you're having a plane. Maybe it is positively charged. You can make it negative also, no problem. And you keep a point over here at a distance r. So you need to find electric field at this point. This electric field is nothing but sigma by 2 epsilon 0, where sigma is the total charge in the surface divided by area of the surface. Very, very simple idea. What about if you take two plates together? Suppose you take two plates together. Okay guys, and one of them is positive plate, the other one is negative plate. Then the electric field is formed only at this center. Look at here. Here and here electric field is 0. There is no electric field. In this point electric field is nothing but sigma by epsilon 0. Whether you select two plates of, what does it say, two plates of same polarity, charged in a same polarity, like this. Suppose I take this, look at here, in these 2 points you can mark electric field. That is nothing but sigma by epsilon 0, sigma by epsilon 0. At the center electric field is equal to 0. So if you take two charged plates together and you are keeping them very, very close to each other, if they are having opposite charges, then electric field present only between them, not in the outside. But if both the plates are having same kind of charge, then the electric field inside or in between them is 0, but the electric field just outside the plates are completely sigma by epsilon 0. So please note these ideas also. This is very important for solving certain problem. Now we will take the concept of charged spherical shell. Electric field due to charged spherical shell. Suppose you select a spherical shell like this, and it is charged spherical shell. We need to find electric field. I select 3 points. Point A just inside the sphere, point B on the surface at a distance of r, point C outside the surface at a distance of small r. Now electric field at A, it is 0. Inside the spherical shell there is no electric field. Electric field at the surface, B is a point on the surface of the shell, that is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. Okay, now electric field just outside, it is nothing but Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 small r square. If you draw a graph between distance covered as well as electric field, your graph is something like this. At 0 to r you cannot measure any field. After that you will have at r you can have a maximum field, thereafter field reduces. Guys, this is equal to EB. Okay, thereafter field lines increases. This is the graph we can work out. So inside a spherical shell electric field intensity is 0. At the surface electric field intensity is Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. Outside anywhere, if you know the distance, you can write down Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 from center to that point distance r with the squared value. So this is what we have to learn from electric field due to a charged spherical shell. Now electric field due to a non-conducting sphere. What is a non-conducting sphere? Where the charges present inside also. Charges seems to be distributed throughout the body, and these charges cannot be moved like in conductor. Now we need to find electric field. So what I am doing is I am keeping a distance, point A here, point B on the surface, point C on the surface. Now we will discuss this idea. At point C, if you know the distance from the center, you can directly write down the total charge of the sphere divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. Here, small r is very much greater than capital R. We can apply this. What about point B? At point B, if you come to that point B, we can say that the distance r is equal to capital R, which means q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square is enough, no problem. But when you come to the point C just inside, okay, sorry, not point, it is point A. Okay guys, look at here, point A is just inside, here also point is inside. Inside electric field is 0 for a spherical shell. But when you take a non-conducting sphere, there is electric field. Suppose the distance from this point to here, I take r. And this r, we know that it is less than that of r. In this situation, we have to use an equation qr divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 r cube. This is what we can do while we are doing problems regarding electric field inside the point. So please note down that. So what is the graph we can connect here? The graph is very simple. We are connecting the distance from where? From the center and the value of electric field inside. It is very simple. Initially it increases directly proportional to the distance up to r. Thereafter it decreases, and this graph represents electric field due to a conducting sphere. This is for a spherical shell. Very, very important idea. Please note down these equations. Okay, my dear students, so we have to discuss very two important idea, and it is just out of syllabus, but we need it. Electric field due to a charged ring. Suppose you select a charged ring. This is a charged ring. Maybe it is positively charged. You can take it is negatively charged, no problem. And we select a charged ring from the center. Maybe the radius of the ring is r. From the center, there is a point at a distance x, and we need to find electric field at this point. So the equation is very simple. Is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. Suppose q is the total charge of the body, q into the distance x divided by r square plus x square whole raised to 3 by 2. And this is very important for solving problems due to electric field due to a charged ring, where x is the distance we measured from the center of the ring to that point, r is the radius, and q is the total charge in the ring. Suppose you select a charged disc. Okay, look at here, this is a disc and it is charged. Disc, you know what is disc? And the total charge in the disc is q. From the center to that point, distance is x. So we need an equation for solving this, and that is equal to E is equal to q by 2 pi epsilon 0 1 minus x divided by root over r square plus x square. This is you can use for electric field at a distance from the center of a disc. This is very important. Please note down. Sorry, I forgot to put r square here. There is an r square, where r is the radius. Okay, don't forget, this is the radius of the disc and the distance where electric field is found. If you know these three data, substitute over here, you will find electric field due to a charged disc. Guys, this is very important. Please note down. Please note it down. Okay, my dear students. So we need one more formula, that is electric field inside an atom. Electric field inside an atom. Suppose you select an atom whose radius it is given as r. In this atom, you select a point. Suppose there is a point From the nucleus to that point, distance is small r. Radius of the atom is capital R. The distance where you have to find electric field, it is small r. Small r is less than that of capital R. Then what is the total charge present here? If you know the atomic number, that is Z, E is the charges of protons, these are the charge of the nucleus. Then the electric field intensity is nothing but, it's a very simple data. Let me give you that data. That is equal to ZE divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 into 1 by r square minus r by r cube. This is what you have to do. Look at here, where r is the point where we need to find electric field. Capital R is the radius of the atom. Capital R is the radius of the atom. If we know this, we can find Z is the atomic number. Atomic number. Okay. ZE together called charge of the nucleus. Charge of the nucleus. So if you know the nuclear charge, then you can find out how much electric field is formed at a distance of this r. So you can apply this equation only for the condition r is less than that of this value, capital R. Okay, so please try to learn this idea, and we have discussed the theory part so far. Now in the next session we will conduct our studies on, or our discussion on, the objective questions. Okay, so thank you guys. I need you to do very well, and all the best for the exam again. Thank you. Please do it very well.